In October 2015, Russian ships and submarines operated near undersea data cables, sparking fears that Russia may intentionally cut or wiretap the world's communication lines. Data cables are protected by international law, but what happens out on the high seas is a legally complicated jurisdiction. So we wanted to know, what are international waters and who exactly is in charge? Well, simply put, international waters are bodies of water that are outside a country's territorial waters, which extend 12 nautical miles from its coast. Within territorial waters, nations have full sovereignty, both above and below the surface. There is also an exclusive economic zone that extends 200 nautical miles out from the shore. But the EEZ only applies sovereign rights to what lies below the surface, like oil or minerals. After 12 miles, anyone can sail through a country's exclusive economic zone, but they can't drill for oil or fish. In fact, the freedom to navigate international waters is one of several freedoms guaranteed by the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Sea. All countries are allowed to fly over, lay cables, build islands, fish, and perform scientific research in international waters. Of course, that's not to say that you can do anything in international waters. First and foremost, whatever is being done on the high seas falls under the jurisdiction of the country the ship is registered in. But what if the country in question is unable or refuses to prosecute criminal activity, such as Somalian piracy? Well, that's when the concept of universal jurisdiction applies. Universal jurisdiction allows for any country to prosecute a criminal regardless of their nationality or where the crime was committed. Although usually this concept is used for crimes against humanity, like genocide, it's useful in international waters because otherwise nobody could claim jurisdiction. Recent efforts against Somalian piracy have been primarily led by the United States, but also involve China, Russia, France, and the UK, as well as the EU and NATO. In fact, this policing of international waters marks the first time the UN Security Council has worked on the same side since World War II. But what counts as international waters isn't always clear-cut. The nautical areas surrounding the Arctic as well as Antarctica are disputed, as multiple countries have claimed sovereignty over the land itself. Perhaps the most tense conflict is in the South China Sea. China lays claim to a number of islands, and by proxy also polices the surrounding waters. But neighboring states like Taiwan, Vietnam, and the Philippines say that China's claims overlap their own territory. Meanwhile, international countries, like the United States, maintain that a large portion of the South China Sea constitutes international waters. The US has even sent ships into what China claims as its own territory. This dispute is considered one of the most volatile in the Asian region. International waters are incredibly important for trade and communication, and are generally protected against unlawful activity. Although it may seem like you can just take a boat 12 miles off the coast and do whatever you want, that's far from the case. Historically, countries have claimed dominion over all the world's oceans, but today, the high seas are free for all. Despite how much water there is in the world, it's actually a fiercely fought-over resource. To learn about which countries are fighting over water, check out this video.
Nearly all human activity, including commerce, transportation, sanitation, migration patterns, and survival, are intrinsically linked to water. Yet nearly 800 million people, or 11% of the global population, lacks access to clean drinking water.
Thanks for watching TestTube News. Make sure to like and subscribe for new videos every day.